going through a lot of challenges, and IT and manufacturing integration can probably overcome some of these challenges in long term and make our manufacturing more sustainable and competitive. So with that, I'd like to start the presentation. So today, I want to talk about some of the big things which are coming up. And of course, there's already a contest and a stage set by two speakers earlier to me, and of course, Ralph talked about the contest of Industrial Internet of Things, and Arundhati talked about a live example of what's being done in NTPC. So it's going to make my job easy, so I'm going to try and see how I can relate to some of these. The big thing that's coming up, and 20 years back, the big thing that came and hit us was Internet. Internet changed the way we actually communicated, the way we looked for information, the way we used information, the way we connected ourselves. And I can tell you that the way our children today connect probably is an evolution of what Internet could do in the social space. But what's important to note is manufacturing. I want to ask this question is, did manufacturing leverage Internet? Maybe, maybe not to that extent that it should have been. But here is an opportunity, and like Ralph said, there's many technologies coming together, and there's a great opportunity for manufacturing to leverage these technologies to get us ahead. So I'm going to talk about a lot of things, primarily around the industrial Internet of Things. Again, I say there's Internet of Things, Internet of Everything, but I'm going to talk about industrial Internet of Things and what we call in Rockwell as a vision for a connected enterprise. The reason why we see this is an important thing is one of our partners, Cisco, actually did an assessment in the market that there is a value for business to an extent of $14 trillion from Internet of Everything. But what's more important to note is 27% of that actually belongs to manufacturing, which is roughly about $4 trillion. And that's the value that we can create if we can leverage technology for manufacturing here. I want to quickly set the context of what a connected enterprise would look like for the customer, for the suppliers. The days are there today, and I know early adopters have already done this, is a supplier can actually supply into the manufacturing based on a demand-based manufacturing. Just in time is probably something that we heard as a great technology, but I think it's aided by information technology, by suppliers knowing when do we supply to the plant. Look at what's it done to the customers. Customers can today see where the order is. And I would say this is more so, and a classic example is if you order anything on a Flipkart, you can track where your order is and when it'll get delivered. And that's what is going to be the future of manufacturing, being able to provide to the suppliers, to being able to see their orders and where it is in manufacturing and when it'll get delivered, so that there's no anxiety, and they could do a lot of adjustments to the rest of their business processes and customer commitments based on that. And that's coming up. We also think there is a world which is changing from just isolated productions to a connected plants and connected enterprises. And that's the trend that we're seeing very clearly. We are also seeing there is convergence of knowledge. That means knowledge earlier used to reside within the boundaries of a plant, but today knowledge is tapped from anywhere in the world. You could actually provide data through the internet, and you could actually have experts comment on that data and take actions based on that. So there's tremendous value this IT integration to manufacturing is going to create. But I just pause for a second and ask you, how many of the manufacturers here and also the machine builders here have already started this journey? Just a show of hands. It's okay, because worldwide I can tell you only 14% have started or probably a midway to this journey. And that's the statistics that has come up. So I don't see any hands, but that's a great opportunity. Probably some of the discussions we have here you can take back to the board executives and then make them compelling reasons. And I'm going to give you some compelling reasons moving forward as to why we should do this. Now I'm going to take a consumer example. This applies to heavy industries. It applies to other industries as well. But look at what's happening to the population. We will exceed 7.6 billion in population. There's more and more population coming out of poverty and more middle class spending power, which is increasing. And what's it going to do to manufacturing? Let's go and look at it even before that. What's it going to do? The number of cars per capita is going to increase. The taste and the food needs today of people are changing. People are willing to go and taste new products, consumer products. So consumer products, there is more varieties, the more unique taste scattering products that's available, which is increasing. There's also going to be more increase in healthcare product, pharmaceutical products, because as you eat a lot of these things, you also get a little bit sick. So you need to have something to support your systems to overcome that. So there's going to be a demand of all kinds of consumer products. Now, what is it doing to manufacturing? So it's going to increase and put more pressure on manufacturing. It's going to put more demands on manufacturing. But more importantly, it's going to put more demand on resources like water, energy, and that's going to be an extremely compelling reason why we need to manage this very effectively. It's also going to help infrastructure-driven steel and cement manufacturing, because there are more and more needs for factories to be set up, expanded, and infrastructure for distributing these products across the countries and cross countries is going to improve. So there's going to be more of that need. And what is estimated is roughly about an investment of $1 trillion is going to go in terms of optimizing resources. And that's a huge spend and an opportunity for us to actually look at. And an opportunity for machine builders, system integrators, for manufacturers. It is a cost, but it is a cost which is going to drive some value. So from that perspective, there is a lot that we at Rockwell believe and we are working towards is to make manufacturing more productive and sustainable. What it means is essentially giving more higher standards of living for people from the products that comes out of manufacturing and improving the quality of life. That's the bigger purpose that we all work towards. And that is done in many ways. For example, today in food chains, food security is becoming a big aspect. And what it means is it's very important to make sure the products that we're promising to deliver to our customers are delivered exactly in the promised way. You don't have a luxury of making an error there. And you need to be able to track back to your production process. My friend earlier alluded to how important it is to track at every step of manufacturing process what goes into that product by the video, which came up beautifully well. And that's what manufacturers need to do. What's getting added, how much is it getting added, what components are getting to build that product, and there should be trackability and traceability at every point. And more important for food, pharmaceutical kind of industries, which is very regulated. We also see a lot more efforts being given for making energy efficient manufacturing plants, because energy is not something that you'll have unlimited. And even if you had unlimited, the cost of energy is becoming prohibitive. So you have to optimize, you have to reduce the cost. And that's more important. The production processes in oil and gas is getting optimized by advanced predictive controls. They are talking about high availability systems and those kind of things. So there's a lot of automation and information is going into these areas to support what is the challenge that the world is facing. Hence it goes back to the thought that out of that 14 trillion, there is 4 trillion available, but then it's not going to come by automatically by itself. So the first thing that manufacturers will have to adopt to is technology. And there are a few technologies which are greatly enabling these, and few of them are listed here, and I'll talk about each one of them in detail, but primarily cloud, mobility, big data analytics, smart things, which is about smart devices and smart machines, and security. And these are the enablers, and manufacturers need to go and adopt to these technologies so that they can derive the value of 4 trillion that comes out of it. What we see on the cloud side is, cloud is nothing but just getting all the data together from remote locations into and being able to get it, collate it, and able to view it from remote locations. So the cloud is going a great enabler for able to collect data and to analyze data remotely. It is also doing a lot of good to the way the IT infrastructure has been planned and utilized. There's it's moving away from on-premise to off-premise, which is enabling people to be able to use cloud as a mechanism for scaling their investments in IT infrastructure. Many a times IT infrastructure becomes a prohibitive cost for small and medium enterprises to start. But the cloud is going to break that barrier. Because like I said, in a connected enterprise, it's not just the plant, it's multiple plants and the suppliers who are connected and the customers who are consuming all collaborate and participate. And if everyone has to participate, everyone needs to have access to that technologies. And cloud is going to greatly enable this. The second one is about mobility. Now, mobility, I don't have to. How many people have smartphones here? Most of them, yeah, wonderful. So, mobility is about devices, but mobility is also about people being able to look at data and being able to be on the move and being able to do the job. And that is greatly enabled by mobility. And you can see the amount of data that's today worldwide consumed. 5 terabytes of data is actually what you see in your mobile phones and smartphones. And that's tremendous. And there's more and more drive for companies to allow bring your own devices. So if I like a particular phone or like a particular device, I want to bring that in and I want to use that to use in an corporate environment, and they're allowing it. So there is going to be more and more of mobility enabling data to be viewed and acted upon. That's a big shift. The big data. I mean, interestingly, manufacturing is one of the biggest producer of big data. Why is it so? Because our sensors works in milliseconds, and there's a whole lot of information about the asset health, about the energy that machines or assets are consuming that's available every second. Is all these data required? May not be. But there is a whole lot of data that is getting consumed, produced, and what needs to get consumed needs to be filtered through a whole lot of careful planning of what is the data that is relevant, how do we get that to the right people at the right time with the right context. And someone talked about this because it's very important to build context to data. Data could be actually very scary if you don't have an understanding as to how the data relates to what you want to decide upon. So the context building of the data needs to be enabled. But the big data is there. The big data is going to be. And interestingly, I just read a statistics. An oil rig produces 1 terabyte of data in a day. And that's the kind of a data that industrial manufacturing enterprises or machines or production equipments could actually produce. Managing that is going to be extremely important, otherwise we will end up in challenging ourselves more than what is solving our problems. But there is also challenges in manufacturing. These data normally are not easily available. Why? Because there is legacy systems, there is legacy networks, there are proprietary controls of the past, there are proprietary networks. We ourselves did some proprietary networks 20 years back. A whole lot of data is stuck in that layer, and getting all these data out of those control systems is the first challenge, and that's going to be a challenge. But that's an opportunity for new greenfield facilities, because you do not probably want to do it exactly the way we did it 15 years back in terms of we planned for manufacturing. We now plan manufacturing to be information enabled, so that's an opportunity as well. It is very important that the data makes sense and the data interact and data is available. And that's why this is very, very critical for us to plan for that. When you talk about data, you need a network, right, to carry it. And it's very important that we look at networks as well. Now, one of the ways that we managed our networks is we isolated networks of the plant from and networks of the enterprise as 2 separate networks. And that's the way we managed it. The reason is we always felt that if we allow the networks to be the same, maybe somebody from outside will come and attack my plant and make my production machines to stop. To a certain extent, that truth was very much valid. But today, the technology is going in a direction that you could actually have open, secured network infrastructure without that worry of having as much threats as you would think. And interestingly, when we all think threat is from outside, it is not necessary to be true. The threats could be from inside. It could be accidental, because I've seen many plants which is actually accidentally stopped, or machines which are stopped because the wrong program was loaded into that machine, versus what should have been done. Or somebody changed the program and the other person who came in the next shift did not know what change was there in that. So there are a lot of areas of security. The security needs to be looked very holistically. There has to be a policy, and interestingly, more and more corporations are now taking security as the biggest issue, and they're creating a lot of knowledge. In fact, we go through that annually across all the employees globally. We have 22,000 employees goes through security training on an IT infrastructure, compulsorily, mandatory. Security has become a very, very important topic, and there are enabling technologies, but we can overcome that. I also want to talk about this context that what's different in industrial Internet of Things versus consumer. Now, consumer products and devices also connect to the Internet. But the big difference and the stakes we have in manufacturing and industrial Internet of Things is we're talking about real-time machines. We're talking about production processes which needs to be secure, which needs to operate and produce without stopping, because stoppage there costs more than what we can afford. Whereas if you look at a consumer, it's just collection of data and presenting that. If a Google map doesn't work, probably we will wait for another 5 minutes and nothing is going to stop. But that's not the case with the manufacturing. If a production machine stops, it's a big deal. And it's not just a deal for that machine, but the whole chain that's associated with that. So it's very important to look at Internet of Things, and when it comes to industrial Internet of Things, from the context of what we are trying to do in manufacturing. Also, the machines have a lot of kinetic energy. And it's very important that when we are using that information and we're trying to manage that information, we realize that we have to stop equipments in a safe and secured way, because it's just not that you can just decide and somebody stop the machine from an internet from a remote location and it's good enough, but you don't know what it is going to do to the manufacturing process. So essentially we need to look at, there are motors which has to continue to run if the production process has to be safe sometimes. It's not to stop. So we need to factor all that aspects into, and that's why the industrial Internet of Things is even more complex and more important to be planned than the consumer Internet of Things. We've been on this path. We've been helping customers to look through the various levels of automation, right from a plant floor to an enterprise MES integration and the middle levels and the ERP integration. We've been working on this and enabling various people to be able to do this. What we also been doing is to bring more and more technology into our products to be able to be information enabled. The latest thing I would say is that we did is we're trying to even move our backplanes to more an open standard IP-based communication. We used to have our own backplanes, which is known only to our partners and known to us, but now we're even opening up that understanding so that more and more devices can plug in even to our backplane. That's the thought process that we are going in. So more and more technology enabled right at the production process, in the automation system, information enabled, converged with control and information is going to enable and accelerate the industrial Internet of Things value creation for our customers. A classic way that we can look at a manufacturing when it is done is the machines are communicating to each other, to the operator, to the executive on what's happening on a real-time basis so that decisions can be taken not as a reactive understanding of what happened, but probably to impact a change in the production process at that time when things are happening, or maybe predictively with technologies of condition monitoring. And there's a whole lot of other technologies which come, RFID, cameras you can integrate. In fact, I was interested to see that you now have IP cameras which can go into unsafe zones and actually go and take a picture and use the same camera to communicate to that person and talk to him, showing him the picture at a remote location. And that is something that we do in our day-to-day life today, because if I have a problem, I take a picture, send it on a WhatsApp, and I tell him, hey, this is what I'm referring to. And that's what is going to happen to manufacturing. So there's tremendous power in terms of information sharing outside the plant. We can bring in knowledge resources across the globe to be able to solve complex problems. We can benchmark one plant with another plant and take practices in a data-driven way, not at a prospective way, but a data-driven way, to be able to share what A plant can teach the B plant and get the B plant and the A plant at the same levels, right? So there's tremendous opportunity around this. Now this is interesting because all these are not just enabled by the technology that comes just into the manufacturing. It's also important that the machine builders and the equipment manufacturers are looking at this. And this is a great opportunity because we call it as rise of the machines. And the rise of the machines is because the machines will get smarter, equipments will get smarter, so that when they go into the plant, they can be connected and they can be leveraged to create a world and a value that is very different. And that's very important to think that there is this whole ecosystem that is a part of the manufacturing, not just the manufacturer, but the supplier of the production equipment or the machine, the integrator. Everyone needs to come into the same page on this journey that we have to take to make more value for our manufacturing. So essentially what we are saying is we're going to create a smart and connected future in manufacturing, because smart and connected future in manufacturing is what we are talking about right now. There's tremendous value, and some of the value that a lot of people have already talked about: faster time to market, lower cost of ownership. The most important thing, and out of that 4 trillion value opportunity, roughly about 2 trillion is around improved asset utilization. And that's a big opportunity to tap on. And then, of course, making sure that we have ability to track and trace capabilities of what we manufacture and enable a risk mitigated manufacturing and production process. That's very important to take. This is the value that we can. But I think the value is always better spoken by not the supplier. It's always better talked by customers and who use that, right? So I did not find an Indian. I did find an Indian example today, but I think there is a lot of journey and there is a lot of encouragement that we need to have to get more and more users to come and talk about deployment of these technologies. But I picked up one example of a remote asset utilization and what is the possibility from one of our experiences globally. I'd like to play that video for 3 minutes and then I'll come back into the presentation.
M.G. Bryan, a leading manufacturer of heavy equipment for the oil and gas industry, is using transformative technology to dramatically change business process and deliver value to their customers.
For the last 25 years, the industry's been very stagnant in the way that it's been continuing to look at equipment, they continue to build that equipment the same way, over and over. And so what we're trying to do is be leaders and market innovators in the business, and we feel like that's what's going to set us apart. The environments that these trucks are being put in are extremely difficult, harsh conditions, 30, 40 below Fahrenheit to 120 degrees Fahrenheit. So we have a $1.1 million piece of equipment, and air filters are $40 a piece. And there's 4 of them, so $160. If they don't change those, they suck the sand and the dirt and different components inside that turbo, so you can lose the turbo or you can literally lose the whole engine. So if we can help them be preventive and help them notify them ahead of time what's happening, we're not just reacting, we're taking care of them.
Through the Microsoft Azure Cloud, remote data collection and delivery of key performance indicators to a variety of mobile devices, including Windows Phone 7 and Windows tablets, potentially give M.G. Bryan's customers the ability to monitor equipment from remote locations.
Well, there's a lot of limitations to the legacy way of doing things from a standpoint of go to a data center and hosting something behind a door somewhere. From a scalability standpoint, if we started off with just 5 trucks and we went to 1,000 overnight, well, the legacy data center approach would not work for us. So we wanted to make sure that we went with a system that would grow with us and expand with us and have basically it work the same way it did with the first 5 trucks as it will with the next 10,000 trucks. From the day they actually drop off the piece of equipment off our lot and the time they use in the field, everything they do is stored in the cloud database. The maintenance guy, he can see the health of his trucks. The operation guy knows exactly where his trucks are at and how they're running. From a logistics standpoint, do they need parts? So you're naming all mobile devices like the iPhones and the iPads of the world. So I mean, that's huge.
By exploring ways to harness cloud computing, MG Bryan realizes that technology applied to a mature market segment can help differentiate the company.
We're able to sell a better solution to our customers, and it's not just about building better equipment, but it's about being able to help them globally manage their equipment. That's something that's no one's been able to do before. And that's the benefit that we're going to have, and we see the growth is tremendous.
Get back to the presentation, please. So that was an example of an asset management remotely enabling value for customer to be able to run their equipments without breakdowns. And this is just a very simple thought, but it's powerful. And there is a compelling reason they talked about why cloud enables and technology enables this kind of capability. There are many things that you can further expand, and I think in the Indian context, I think with the PAT regulations on energy, there's an increased emphasis that energy needs to be consumed, and we need to carefully consumed, and we need to make sure that we understand what we're consuming. And that there's going to be a day when manufacturing is going to be one of the smart things to connect to the smart grid. So the plant needs to know what is it consuming in terms of energy, what's the right time to consume without stopping the production processes abruptly or by not meeting a customer's commitment. And all that is managed, monitored, and fed back based on what the demand is going to be to the what the supply is going to be. So it's going to be very integrated in future. But as I said, one is technology, but this is all about connected enterprise. It's all about connecting people, processes, and technologies. So that we need to make sure that we do have our people and processes supporting along with technology. As somebody said earlier, that technology is probably not any longer a limitation. It's probably the way we're going to deploy, where we're going to plan to deploy it is going to be the biggest factor. So this is an important journey, the connected enterprise journey. And I can tell you that even developed economies are at a point where not everyone has reached the end point. There are various phases, and we have an opportunity as well as in India to actually be at the same phase in making sure that our manufacturing is productive as the global manufacturing is productive. So there is a lot of efforts which is going on to make sure that to understand where we are with the journey and to make sure that we plan it well and we execute it well so that it actually becomes a journey that reaches the end point of creating value. There are some challenges in this journey, and there is going to be some challenges. We do have a lot of manufacturing today which has been having an aging workforce. Also the aging workforce, it's very difficult to say aging workforce bring a tremendous value because they understand the processes in manufacturing so well that the young people who come into the plant understand the IT and the devices so well, but they don't understand the machine and the operation so well. There's a need for a good amount of alignment, good amount of discussions to enable these people to work together. The talent gaps needs to be addressed. We ourselves are making a lot of efforts to make sure that this message is not just spread by me, but there's a lot of people going and talking about this and enabling our customers to be able to take this journey. The other thing that we would need from manufacturers is to break the silo between, of course, departments. We need to do that, but most importantly, between the manufacturing and the IT. And it is still a big, big, big wall that we need to break. And I think that's an effort that we all will have to make sure these technologies get into manufacturing. Security and standards are going to drive it, and there are solutions and ways to manage it. Cybersecurity is probably still a concern, but there is ways in which we are continuing, because that's never going to stop, because if you become smarter, the hackers become smarter than you the next day. So we're going to be raising that all the time, and that's just going to be make sure that we have a policy, we have a security understanding, and then put all that practices in place and make sure people are aware that this is important for the company. And then we have a lot of partners to take this journey and to enable. So we have Cisco, we have Microsoft, we have Panduit, and very many people who are here also propagating this message. So the customers would get the benefit when all of us are taking this journey together. asked about my company, Rockwell Automation has been serving the industrial automation space, one of the largest company solely dedicated for industrial automation and information solutions. We are present in 80 plus countries, 22,000 employees work every day morning, and we dream of making the standards of living better by creating a better quality of life for everybody else. And we serve a very diverse set of industries, right from consumer products to automotive, to oil and gas, to infrastructure industries and heavy industries. You could go and find more information about Connected Enterprise, and there's a whole lot of white papers and informations and are available in this link, and please do take a look at this. Thank you very much.